Hello and welcome to Gears Training. In today's training session, we are going to be reviewing the club and ball metrics that are available within the system. While these are not all of the metrics that we have, this should hopefully provide a good overview of some of the most important ones that you will see. Let's go ahead and get started. To view the metrics available within the system, the first place that will be useful is pulling up the info panel. After you have loaded a capture, you can load the info panel for that capture by clicking the eye icon in the upper left hand corner, or in the upper right hand corner if you have a second player loaded. First, let's review the club and ball metrics. The first metric shows you a picture of the club face with an indicator showing exactly where off of the center the ball was struck. This is in millimeters, as you can see here. First, we have the club head with the club path. We will try and see if we can show some visuals that will help this be easier for you to see. The club path is the direction that the club head is moving to the left or the right of the target line. So here we can see the target line in blue, and here we can see the club path. This is at the time of impact, and this is represented in degrees. Most golfers describe this value as in to out. The club head is moving away from the golfer and is associated with the draw shot, or out to in. The club head is moving towards the golfer and is associated with the fade shot. As you can see, this metric can be found in the side panel. The next is the angle of attack. You can see this here with A of A. Right here as well. The angle of attack is the vertical movement of the club head relative to the target line and at the time of impact, and is represented in degrees. A negative value indicates a downward movement of the club at the time of impact, recommended when the ball is on the ground in order to maximize trajectory. A positive value indicates an upward movement of the club head at the time of impact, recommended when hitting your driver off a tee. This metric can also be found in the side panel. Face to path. Face to path is the difference between the club path and the face angle at the time of impact, represented in degrees. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the club graphs at the bottom of the screen. Spin loft. Spin loft is the difference between the angle of attack and dynamic loft at the time of impact, represented in degrees. This metric can also be found in the side panel. Closure rate. Closure rate is the speed at which the club head rotates inward from the top of the swing to impact, represented in degrees per second. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. T-closure rate is the speed at which the club head rotates inward from the top of the swing to impact. This is represented in rotations per minute and uses a slightly different calculation. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Low point. Low point is where the angle of attack is at 0 degrees. Impact point. Impact point is the speed of the club head at the time of impact, represented in miles per hour or meters per second, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in the settings. This metric can be found in the side panel. Face center. Face center is represented as two values, miles per hour or meters per second, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in settings. The first number is the face center speed in the current frame, and the second number is the face center speed at impact. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Ratio to grip. Ratio to grip is the ratio of club head speed to grip speed. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Loft. Face center loft is the angle of the club face to the horizontal, represented in degrees. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs at the bottom of the screen. Address. Address loft is the angle of the club to the horizontal at the time of address, represented in degrees. This metric can be found in the side panel. Impact. Impact loft is the angle of the club face to the horizontal at the time of impact, represented in degrees. This metric can be found in the side panel. Difference. Difference loft is the difference between address loft and impact loft, represented in degrees. This metric can also be found in the side panel. Lie. Static lie is the lie of the angle between the bottom of the club head and the shaft, represented in degrees. This is a fixed value based on the club, and you can see it in the side panel here. Address. Address lie is the angle between the bottom of the club and the ground at the time of address, represented in degrees. Positive value indicates a toe up club head position, while a negative value indicates a toe down club head position. This metric can be found in the side panel. Impact. Impact lie is the angle between the bottom of the club head and the ground at the time of impact, represented in degrees. Positive value indicates a toe up club head position, while a negative value indicates a toe down club head position. This metric can be found in the side panel. Difference. Difference lie is the difference between the address lie and impact lie, represented in degrees. This metric can be found in the side panel. Face angle. Face angle is the angle between the club face and the perpendicularity with the target line, represented in degrees. Values are referred to as open. Club face is turned away from the golfer, or closed, turned in towards the golfer. Face center is the face angle shown at every frame through the swing, found in both the side panel and the graphs below. Address is the face angle at the time of address. Impact is the face angle at the time of impact. And difference is the change in the face angle between address and impact. And this can be found in the side panel. Now let's look at shaft metrics. First, grip speed. Grip speed is the velocity of the shaft grip through the swing, represented in miles per hour or meters per second, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in settings. This is found both in the side panel and the graphs. Grip roll is the speed of rotation of the grip counterclockwise for a right-handed golfer and clockwise for a left-handed golfer, represented in degrees per second measured from the top of the swing to impact. This metric can be found in the side panel at the current frame, and also graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Kick. Kick is the acceleration of the deflection of the club represented in miles per hour or meters per second, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in settings. This can be found in the side panel for the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Twist is the twist of the shaft through the swing represented in degrees, and it also can be found for the current frame in the side panel and in the Club Graphs at the bottom of the screen. Path. First, for path, we have deflection. This is the bend of the shaft in the forward direction relative to the shaft center line represented in millimeters. This metric can be found on the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Droop. Droop is the bend of the shaft in the up-down direction relative to the shaft center line represented in millimeters. This metric can be found in the side panel and the Club Graphs. And ratio. Ratio is the ratio of deflection to droop. Mathematically calculated as deflection divided by droop. This metric can be found in the side panel shown at the current frame and also in the Club Graphs at the bottom of the screen. Lean. Also known as forward lean, lean is the angle of the shaft center line relative to the global vertical represented in degrees. A positive value indicates an angle where the grip is ahead of or closer to the target than the club head. Address lean is the forward lean at the time of address. Impact lean is the forward lean at the time of impact. And difference is the difference between the address and the impact lean. Finally, twist velocity. Twist velocity is the speed of rotation of the hands as they twist the club into the face of the ball. Counterclockwise for a right-handed golfer and clockwise for a left-handed golfer represented in degrees per second. This is on newer captures with gears and shown at the current frame and graphically in the Club Graphs at the bottom of the screen. Ball flight. Ball flight metrics are available as either internal metrics from the gear system or as external metrics from an external launch monitor. First, carry distance is the distance the ball travels in the air. This calculation assumes that the ground height of the landing spot is the same as where it was hit from, represented in yards or meters, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in settings. Top speed is the velocity of the golf ball immediately after impact, represented in miles per hour or meters per second, depending on whether the units are imperial or metric. Launch angle is the angle between the ball trajectory line and the horizontal target line, represented in degrees. Relative angle, represented in degrees, is the relative angle of the ball trajectory line and the horizontal target line. Backspin is the backwards rotation of the ball, represented in rotations per minute. Smash factor is the ball speed divided by the club head speed. This metric can also be found in the side panel. These are some of the club and ball metrics available within the gear system. We'll now move to some of the body metrics that are available for gears owners in our next video. Thank you for watching.